Hello, my friend. If you've been watching What's Up in Makeup, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, or if you've been paying attention to makeup news, you may have heard that Kylie Jenner sold 51% of Kylie Cosmetics to Coty. And that means that they have a majority stake, which means that they are going to be making lots of decisions for Kylie Cosmetics. And that has happened with so many brands that start off as independent makeup companies and then they get sold to brands. So what I want to talk about today is who are these brands that are buying up all of these companies and what companies do they own? And what is the impact on the cosmetic industry that it seems like indie companies just kind of grow until they get really big and then they get bought out? Like, what does that even mean? And what's the future for the cosmetic industry in this kind of environment? If that sounds interesting to you, hang tight. We're getting into it right now. It's interesting because when I talk about this casually in videos, I'm surprised at how many people aren't aware of the umbrella companies, the companies that own lots of other companies. They feel like when they're buying a Maybelline product that they're buying it from Maybelline only, but actually Maybelline is owned by L'Oreal. When you're buying a Too Faced product, Too Faced is actually owned by Estee Lauder. So this is what the kind of progression is. You get an independent brand that starts off, as a small business where it's somebody's dream and they make it into this concept and they start selling these products and they start taking off for one reason or another. They start, people are buying them and they're getting very popular and the owners of the company start making lots and lots of money. So they start investing more and they start making more products and people are loving them and they're getting more popular. And then a big company like L'Oreal, like Coty, like Shiseido notices that this small company is doing really, really, really well. So then they make a deal and they say, hey, we'll buy you out for X amount. Sometimes they allow the owners of the indie company to still be a part of the company. Like for example, Jared from Too Faced, he's still a part of Too Faced. He just isn't the owner of it anymore. But all of the decisions of these brands are made by these huge conglomerate companies that are backed by many, many investors. So their number one priority as a business is to make their investors happy, is to make the most amount of profit possible, because that's what businesses do in a capitalist economy, which is what we have here in the United States. So in case you don't know, I will tell you a little bit about a couple of the major umbrella companies. So L'Oreal, according to Technavio, which is a company that watches market trends, they make over $30 billion a year annually just in their beauty sales, which I think is absolutely incredible. So they own Garnier, Maybelline, they own Lancome, Giorgio Armani, YSL, Kiehl's, they own a bunch of hair care brands like Matrix and Redken, and they also own The Body Shop. So whenever you go into the Body Shop, you're actually going into a L'Oreal store. It's like a branch of L'Oreal. Isn't that kind of interesting? Now, Unilever is another really big one. So they own brands like Pond's, Tresemme, Suave, Vaseline. Estee Lauder owns tons of brands. I'm just gonna put them up on the screen for you because they own so many brands. 25 plus brands sold in 150 countries. Proctor Gamble owns lots of hair care companies like Head and Shoulders, Herbal Essences. They own Ivory, they own Olay, they own Old Spice, Crest, Oral-B, Scope. They own the Art of Shaving, which I was really surprised. I was thinking the Art of Shaving was like, this up and coming business. I don't know if they started that way. I found that absolutely fascinating. Then we come to Coty, and Coty owns Adidas, Clairol, CoverGirl, David Beckham products, Katy Perry products, Max Factor, Rimmel, Sally Hansen, Marc Jacobs, Calvin Klein, Gucci, Hugo Boss, Philosophy. They own so many brands. One that has been buying up a lot of brands recently is Shiseido. Shiseido owns, of course, Shiseido. They own NARS, they own Bare Essentials and Bare Minerals, and they've also recently gotten a huge bidding war with a bunch of these other large umbrella companies, and they won in order to purchase Drunk Elephant. That was a new purchase for them. And then the last one I want to talk about is Amore Pacific. They own Salawasu, Laneige, Mamand, Innisfree, and Etude House. I don't know if they are the only umbrella company in South Korea. So in South Korea, there may be bigger ones that I'm just not aware of, but that's the one that stood out to me as owning a lot of other brands. So what's the benefit of these large companies buying these small companies? It's kind of like what I was saying about Art of Shaving, in that I go into the mall and I see an Art of Shaving and it looks so cool and it's so fresh and so different and so interesting. And I think I'm going to this company that just seemed to pop up out of nowhere and it's just so cool and I've never seen it before. If it it was just a L'Oreal shaving company, I wouldn't be interested. So they have that advantage of that fresh look without having their original main name on it. Also, if something goes wrong with one company, then the other companies, people don't know they're associated. So, you know, if there's ever drama with one, you know, you can keep the other ones separate from there because they are technically different companies. But there's a problem arising with these large companies that spend all of this money on all of these smaller brands, in that the beauty purchasing bubble is bursting. People that were buying tons and tons of all of the latest releases when the Too Faced Sweet Peach collection came out, if you're around for that, raise your hand, they're not buying as much anymore. I'm not buying as much. I'm not sure if you're buying as much, but it seems like in my comment section, people are constantly telling me that they have enough makeup, that they do not need any more makeup, that they do not need any more of this. And now the trend is actually going more towards skincare. The purchasing of skincare is increasing because people are they have plenty of makeup. They don't need any more. So what is going to happen to some of these companies as purchasing goes down? And one thing we've seen, even though Anasazi Beverly Hills isn't owned by a parent company, they do have investors. And we've seen kind of a change in Anasazi Beverly Hills as a company recently because of the changes in the market that we're seeing and people buying less. You're noticing they're now manufacturing products in China. The new Norvina palettes, the square ones, are manufactured in China, which is much less expensive to manufacture than in the US. They're popping out new releases like there's no tomorrow. How many palettes did they release in just like a 2-month span? It was insane. From the Jackie Aina palette to the Carly Bible palette, it was like, I don't even know, and it was a lot of palettes. They had many palettes, it was crazy. The logic is, at least from the tweets I read from Norvina's account, is that if you don't want this one, then you can buy this one. Because when you're oversaturated with a bunch of product, maybe you have something like this, but you don't have something like this. So they're trying to capture you on that, where if they only released this, they wouldn't have gotten you. But now they've released this as well, now they've gotten you with a purchase. Because that's their job. Their job is to convince you to buy their things so that they can make more money and be a more successful business. We've seen an explosion of ColourPop, and part of the reason is because they have their own lab. There was a documentary series called Broken that Marlene Estelle was in. There's an episode about makeup that I definitely recommend you watch, and they talked about ColourPop and how fast they can turn out products, and I think it was like less than a week that they can go from concept to product. I was like, what? Less than a week? Because when you talk to regular indie brands who are going through independent labs, independent manufacturing, it can take 6 months to make something. It can take a year to make something, but they can turn things out in a week. No wonder they're making so much product. So what would I like to see as my personal opinion out of all of this? I would love to see more indie brands being supported. Those people that are still in those beginning stages of their cosmetic company careers. They're producing good product, they're providing good customer service, and they have new and exciting and different things. I will leave some of my favorite indie brand websites down below in case you'd like to check any of them out. I will tell you that most of them have sent me PR, and that's how I've tried them, is because they've sent me PR, but I do genuinely love them. I'm not gonna list every indie brand that's ever sent me PR because some of them I honestly am not a huge fan of, but I'll give you the best of the best that I've tried. They'll all be down there in the comment section down below. So what I'd like to ask you at this point is, what do you think about these giant parent companies that are buying up all of these smaller brands? How does that impact the industry, and how does that impact you as an individual and your purchasing choices and what you want to buy? This marketing bubble bursting and the effects of it, how is that affecting you as a consumer? What do you think about that? Are you seeing that you're purchasing less makeup than you were 2 or 3 years ago? I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you're not already subscribed, don't forget to subscribe before you go. But if you'd like to hang out a little bit longer, YouTube should be recommending a video for you right down there to watch, to hang out with me just a little bit more. If you have to go for your day, thank you so much for hanging out as long as you did. Mad love to you, and I will see you in a video very, very soon. Bye!